Hello, and welcome to another trigger tutorial. This one will cover several new triggers that I have added as a result of patch 2.8 that I have not previously covered. This first one is better control for adding new god powers. I've got this new trigger which, when I type the word power, grants a god power. And this one is special in that, unlike the normal grant god power, this one will reuse a slot if it can. So at the moment it's set to grant 1 Nigahog god power when I use it. Let's show this in action. So if I use it now, it will go to the second slot as per usual. And if there's a full set of god powers, such as using the cheat, to do it without the Nigahog power, then when I use it, it will grant to the fourth slot as normal. However, if one of the slots has no uses left, such as casting this tree, then if I grant the god power and it isn't available, there we go, just to give an example here, which I haven't got Nigahog. If I grant the power, instead of wiping out the fourth slot, it will actually reuse slot 1 because there are no charges. And so what this means is you'll only lose an existing power if there was no other choice. In any other cases, it will try and not replace something that you have a use for. This trigger allows you to essentially remove the need for shop items having clear or god powers, because all the unused god powers can now just be reused. Another new addition in patch 2.8 is now the ability to customize the watercolor. Previously in scenarios, this was only possible by using custom water types, which are marked as desync sensitive, and in random maps the situation is even worse, being that it is impossible. But now we can do it using a trigger. If I go to the trigger editor, there is a new trigger called Paint Watercolor in Area. I have also provided several overloads for circles and areas being specified manually. So here I've set an area from these 2 points which the rectangle covered will be coloured. Now note that the watercolours are values between 0 and 1 rather than 0 and 255. So 1 means fully colour the water, 0 means don't colour it at all. Let's see it in action. There you go. We now have some purple water. The final new addition I'm going to cover today is something extremely exciting for single-player scenario designers. This is the ability to carry data between scenarios or even the same current scenario. Let me show you what's going on in action first. So I start the game and I've got an Anybyte and there are 2 squares. Let's move over to the blue tile square. Okay, it says amazing. Next time I play this map, instead I'm going to get a Guardian. Alright, let's try it out and see what happens. Lo and behold, this time we have a Guardian to start with. That's much better. Let's go and see what this other square does. Oh, it sounds like I'm only going to get an Anybyte again. That's too bad. Let's see if that actually has happened. And there you go, despite having restarted, we've now got a different situation. We're back to only having an Anybyte. So, what's going on here? Let's open the trigger editor, and there's a few new triggers, but they're not too bad. So the first thing I've got is 2 triggers, which is Anybyte game start and Guardian game start. What these do is at the start of the game, it checks whether a persistent variable is of a certain value. And I'm looking at this for the current scenario. So here I'm checking index 0 has a value of 0, and for the Guardian one it's similar, but I check the value is 1. Now if the condition is satisfied, then the effect is I change the block to the unit. So here it changes to Anybyte and here to a Guardian. Now I only want this check to be done at game start, so I've got another trigger which runs shortly afterwards with the run immediate turned off, which just simply disables those. This just prevents them triggering from the middle of the game. But the most interesting part is these two here. These check whether the unit has reached a tile. So for the Guardian, I check if my unit has gone with a close range of this blue tile. And for the effects, I send the chat, and here is where I store the value. So I'm saying that the value index 0 is now the value 1. So this means that at game start, when the check is made, it will now see that the value is 1 instead of 0 and give me the Guardian instead. Similarly, here I set the value back to 0. So at game start, it sees that the value is 0. Now, just a few notes about this system. Firstly, you can only store persistent variables for the current scenario. You can't store it for a different named scenario. The second thing to note is that these are stored by scenario name. So if you playtest in the editor, it will actually store it under the name testing instead of the name of your scenario. This is because when you playtest, it performs a save and acts like a separate map. This is just due to the game protecting itself from your map being corrupted. So if you wish to store the values properly on a scenario basis named, then you'll need to go to single player and play the scenario through there instead to get the proper storage. This also means that if you play other scenarios in the editor, the values will interfere with each other. However, for reading values, you can actually choose where you read it from. So I actually go reading from the current scenario, but you can also read it from a different scenario and provide the scenario name. The difference here is if you had, say, a campaign and you wanted to carry the character's level, say, between it. So you would store the level on this scenario. So say this would be, say your first scenario is called scenario A and this was scenario B, then you would check if scenario A had a value, say 1, in which case you would set your character to level 1. But let's say he killed lots of enemies and he got to level 5, so now you can store a value of 5. And so this system essentially allows you to carry your data across your character. This persistent data, by the way, will be stored between sessions, and even if you close the scenario and reopen it. This is because the session is stored on your profile data. So if I go to options, then under the profile list we've got user profiles. So I've currently called high graphics, and this is where it would be stored under. So if you change that profile, then it would also remove the data that you had stored. Hopefully this is a really exciting feature, and I look forward to seeing some crazy maps making use of it. Hope you found these new triggers useful, and keep a lookout for more trigger tutorials, and have a great day!